Yeah, it's hard to put a finger on, just one thing. There's so many risk factors for injury prevention and things and whatnot. But just like in anything in life, those that are more prepared are going to be, um, you know, can handle the stresses of tennis a lot better. So the kids, the juniors that really put in the time and effort in the gym physically, working with their strength and conditioning coaches to kind of work on strengthening their bodies to withstand the stresses and the demands of tennis are going to do a lot better when it comes to injury prevention. So the key is just preparation, but you gotta know what you need to work on, right? So you need to find out what are your strengths and weaknesses. One of the good things that we at Emory Tennis Medicine do is uh, we are starting to do more uh, prevention assessments and screens. Um, we use sources like the USA High Performance Training Profile. We add some more tests to it, but generally, what it is it kind of screens out what are our weaknesses and what are our strengths in mobility and strength when it comes to certain body parts. That way, we know what to improve upon. So, for example, if we get someone with limited range of motion and intern rotation for a shoulder, which a lot of tennis players do have. Uh, you know, Something as simple as incorporating a sleeper stretch for that person will increase mobility and help prevent some of the shoulder things that we see. Or on the other side of strengthening, if they have some shoulder weakness in the tests, we can give them a set of exercises to incorporate into their training to kind of help develop the strength in their shoulder to help prevent injuries that way. Um, so yeah, just preparation, knowing what you need to work on uh, as far as strength and mobility is a good way to start with injury prevention. Yeah, so places like where you coach at Windy Hill, y'all do a great job. You guys have strength and conditioning coaches that can help facilitate that with the players. But unfortunately, not all places are as good as Windy Hill. Um, uh, but there has to be like the answers in the question. There has to be a balance of those things. We can't spend, all of our time on court training, running the juniors, things like that, um, and then put so little time into flexibility and mobility work and strength, extra strength training on particular things. So there has to be, uh, you know, we have to instill it in the kids, make it a part of the program, make it a non-negotiable that we work on these things so that, our on-court activity is, successful because you spend all your time on court, you're running, you're playing tennis, but then maybe you're only doing 5 minutes of stretching afterwards, once a day, or you're not working on any other strengthening. There's an imbalance there, so uh, maybe make it a point to add more time, make it more of the program to instill some of these practices to help the juniors would be a good place to start. Um, but yeah, and just recognizing, when there is a period where we're doing heavy, intense training, uh, to also make sure that we incorporate more time for mobility and stretching and recovery and things like that would also be helpful. Yeah, so I deal with this personally. I'm not a young player anymore, but low back pain is can be common in tennis players. Hopefully, not in our young tennis athletes. Um, but for young tennis athletes, we want to be worried about more bone stress injuries. In our adults, it's going to be more disc. But one way to, the best way to decrease the risk of injury is to strengthen the area around the core. So doing things like planks, side planks, um, resisted rotation, core rotation with cables or bands will help. Strengthening the hips will also help as well. So just doing hip bridges, monster walks. So if you strengthen the muscles below the core, it will help above as well. And then working on mobility. So mobility of the hips, uh, especially the posterior hip. If we're tight in our hips and hamstrings and our glutes, that's gonna negatively alter the positioning of the back. And then if you're already having, core weakness, tightness in the lower body, you add heavy training loads and, you know, lots of hours on court. It's a good combination to get some low back pain. So, you know, in the USA Performance Profile and our test, we want our players to, be able to hold a plank for at least a minute. That's kind of like the minimum of what you want to see strength wise. But more is, for this is better. Uh, and, incorporating core strengthening uh, is a good start. And then you want to also look at biomechanics when it comes to tennis. Tennis is such a technical sport. If you have bad positioning when you're serving or hitting ground strokes, you know, with overextension when we're serving and hitting ground strokes, that's not going to help either. So that's something to work with the coaches with and to make sure our athletes aren't doing too much of that. Um, and you wouldn't want them to do that anyways, technically. Yeah, so very common tennis elbow in tennis for sure. We see it more in our adults, actually. Tennis elbow, so overuse injury of that lateral tendon of the elbow. Um, in our young athletes, we want to make sure we watch out for something called apophysitis. Is in our younger athletes that are not skeletally mature yet, they have these open growth plates and areas of weakness that can kind of, where the bone is pulling, where the tendon is pulling off the bone in the elbow. We want to watch out for that. So it could be a skeletal stress injury in our young athletes versus a tendon issue in our adults. But that's going to come down to a lot of it is biomechanics. A lot of times you won't see a high level player get tennis elbow because they have such good form. But we do see it a lot in our adult patients, um, you know, that are newer to the sport, that are novice. So those people tend to over pronate, excessively pronate across the body when they're hitting forehands, which is the main cause of this injury. So we want to work with our coaches and work on technique. So, low to high, finish over the shoulder, that type of deal will help prevent the overpronation. Um, and then after that, it's making sure we're doing the strengthening in our shoulder and our elbow to help support and uh, support the tendon and to withstand the stresses of tennis. And then just monitoring, training loads, of course. Uh, you know, too much of anything is not always great. Yeah, so there's so many signs, but I think some of the main ones you want to look out for is obviously the junior withdrawing from activity. So if they're pulling out of their matches, if they're withdrawing from practices a lot sooner or more frequently, um, that's going to be a very obvious one. They don't want to play. Hopefully, the lines of communications are good between the player and the coach, and the player will, tell the coach or the parent that, hey, I'm just not feeling really well, feeling more tired than usual. That's the best case scenario because they just outright tell you. But sometimes our young athletes aren't good about telling us things, and they want to keep on pushing through. So you want to look out for signs. the fatigue, such as decrease in performance. They could have poor shot selection, slower running speed, movement. They feel heavy in the legs. Um, and then one big thing that you can always see is when you fatigue, you know, proper technique goes out the door. So um, that's one of the main things that we see a lot. Where if a player is fatiguing, their biomechanics, their technique kind of goes away, and they start doing things improperly when it comes to their biomechanics. Yeah, so warm ups, cool downs. Again, we got to make those non-negotiables. If you want to play tennis, you have to warm up, and then afterwards, you need to cool down and incorporate recovery techniques. Make it a part of the training program. Is the first thing, because there's a lot of folks out there that just get in a court, just start playing right away, and without any proper warm up or cool down afterwards. So make it a part of the training. Uh, Warm ups should always be dynamic. Before starting to hit the ball. So you want to incorporate exercises, from head to toe. That kind of mimic the movements that you're going to do in tennis. So, with our Emery 10 Plus dynamic warm up, we try to do a lot of lunges, straight leg kicks. We do uh, core rotations, um, things that kind of mimic what we're doing on court. Um, and then, you know, the old ways, we still have some folks that think static stretching beforehand for tennis or activity is good, but in reality, you're shutting down the muscle. So we want to do things that excite the muscle, bring more blood flow to the area, uh, warm up, our neuromuscular system to prepare ourselves for tennis. And then for the cool down, after tennis, you definitely want to incorporate a cool down because that's how you help transition the body from intense exercise to a state of rest. So, getting on a bike or doing a jog just to, slow down the heart rate gradually, help the muscles with blood flow to get all the waste byproducts such as lactic acid out of the muscle group. Um, to kind of help ease that transition. And then after the cool down, you want to do a series of stretches that will help with mobility and to help the muscle recover um, from the intense exercise. Yeah, we got to incorporate the time for recovery, stretching, mobility. Again, broken record, make it a non-negotiable. Uh, you know, that's a must for our junior players, especially in these tournament situations where you're playing multiple matches per day. So, when you're getting off court, make sure you're actually resting and you're doing the things that you need to do to recover for the next match because they're happening so quickly after the previous match these days. So stretching, foam rolling, if you can get some sleep, which a lot of our young athletes don't do, maybe not in between matches, but making sure that we're sleeping enough at night is a good thing rather than staying up late on the phones and doing homework, decreasing screen time. Uh, Sleep is when we get a lot of our recovery and when we're working, we're playing tennis, we're breaking down the muscle, but when we're sleeping, our muscles are rebuilding during that period, and we need that more. And then just recognizing when during an intense training period or tournament is when there's going to be a heavy spike in our training load. So making sure that we recognize that, and then after the training load, we take some time off to recover. So I always tell my, players 2 days before and 2 days after a tournament is when you want to keep the activity kind of lighter. 2 days before you want to keep it lighter because you don't want to go into the tournament fatigued, and then 2 days afterwards you want to get rest and recovery, to let your body recover. So instilling those kind of things can help a lot.